think outside the box, if you will. I mean, go there, go off campus. Let's think this through. And sure enough, that's where the Mustang was born. When it finally hit, it took the country by storm.
Welcome everybody to another edition of Cars in Context. You know, this is the Motor City, and this is the show where we put cars into the context of your everyday life. I'm your host, John Clor. I hope to try to give you some great information, maybe entertain you, a little bit of education, but I will make no apologies for my decidedly Detroit perspective. Today we've got a great show, so it's time to get up close to the TV, turn up the volume, get a pad and pencil. You're going to take down some tips on how to properly and safely buy a used car. And for that, we're bringing in our car expert, our old friend Joe Babiasz. Joe, thanks for joining us on Cars in Context.
Pleasure to be here.
Back again, and this one we're really going to save people a lot of money and a lot of grief if they listen to our show today about the ins and outs of buying a used car. So, but before we do that, we got to find out, folks, what's in the news. So the headlines we've been picking at is, here's one, Joe, that's really fit into our topic. Used car dealers are heavily investing in online advertising for sales. Now, in case you haven't noticed, more and more car dealerships are spending more and more of their advertising dollar. They're hiring professional photographers and videographers to come to their lots and take pictures and videos of their used car inventory and then putting it all online. And the whole idea is they want to attract attention of customers who are using these third-party automotive websites that to try to find their car. Now, the idea for folks to go online isn't new, but what's really new is that we're finding almost 90% of us are going online before we go car shopping. And if 90% of us are doing that, then these folks think, you know, instead of maybe the typical newspaper ad or you know, flyer or color ad or maybe TV and radio, they're really looking at online. This is where they're investing their money. So if you're good with a video camera or a good photographer, you might want to walk into that used car dealership and say, hey, get a job. Are you putting enough of your advertising budget online? Now, some of the biggest websites most active in this business right now, autotrader.com, cars.com, Kelley Blue Book, and of course Black Book USA. These are just some of the sites, but even the local dealerships, especially if you're a used car dealer only, you're really smart to get your stuff, everything online, because you reach a far broader audience.
Absolutely.
Joe, do you have a headline for us?
I do. Manheim is a vehicle auction. Manheim economists see a healthy adjustment, a realignment in used car sales. You know, John, in the last few years, used car prices have skyrocketed.
Oh gosh, tell me
and
about
it was the economy that really made that happen.
Right.
What happened with the economy, particularly with people that had poor credit, they could not get credit for a new car, drove them to a used car dealer.
Yep.
Some cases buy here, pay here lots, which in some cases charge a lot of interest. And it was a captive audience, and the used car dealers raised the prices to a point as much as they could. Well, what's happened is the economy's gotten a little bit better. New car dealers, new car companies have lowered the credit standards a little bit for customers, and now those customers who 2 or 3 years ago could not get a new car, all of a sudden they can get a new car.
Right.
And so more of those people are getting into new cars. There's also some great lease prices, $150 a month. So people are saying, why should I pay for a used car and pay 20% interest? So they're buying, with the additional new car purchases, used cars are getting less popular right now, and it's driving the prices down. So it's a really good thing for the consumer that they can get into these new cars that have warranties.
Great news.
Yeah, it's great news. It might not be great news for the used car dealer, but they'll be buying them cheaper at auction anyhow. They'll still make their profit out of it, but it's good for the consumer because the prices are low.
Absolutely, and let's put this into context for you. You know, when we weren't selling new cars because the economy was in the tank and our annualized rate was like, you know, 40% down, we weren't buying these new cars at lease either. So there were no trade-ins for the used car market to have. And, you know, for every one new car, 4 or 5 used cars are sold, sometimes up to 8, depending on the year. So all of a sudden, this supply, this endless supply of new cars going into the used car lot dried up. So the dealers had, so that really also contributed to driving prices up. We don't have that many trade-ins because nobody's buying any new cars. We're not making any new cars. Production is down. So this is really good news. If you were the kind of shopper, I know some smart shoppers that wait till an off-lease car comes in, so the guy who leased it and the company takes the big hit on depreciation. You can buy a clean, used off-lease car for $10,000 off sticker. So those guys, great news for you, Joe. That was a great headline.
News for the public.
Well, I've got one. Here's one, a little throwback to another Detroit icon. Remember the Supremes?
I do.
Well, I'm going to sing "Stop" in the name of fuel economy. Oh, that was bad. It looks like we'll be seeing the use of StartStop technology now. And I don't know if you guys are aware of this stuff, but this is a technology where the engine actually stops when you're stopped and shuts off, not running. And then when you're ready to step on the gas, it starts up and takes off again for that brief instant to try to save gas. And it's all in an effort for the automakers to meet these new federally mandated, EPA-mandated fuel economy standards that we're facing for 2015. Now, you might think that that's pretty common stuff, but right now, there's only maybe 5% of the cars on the road that are using this new stop-start technology, mostly in hybrids. But we're hearing that as the electronics involved are being refined, more and more automakers are going to be looking at this for your everyday car. In fact, some analysts say start technology could be in as many as 50% of all the passenger cars that we're going to be selling within the next 4 years. That means you might have some exposure to this technology. Now, what's the reason? Fuel economy savings of up to 8%. But I don't know about you, Joe. I get a little nervous when the whole engine shuts off, and I would like to see how seamlessly it works if you're on I-94 during rush hour and stop and go traffic, and it keeps turning off and on and off and on. I'm kind of curious about it, but pretty interesting. You got another one for us, Joe?
I do. There's been a lot of rumors that General Motors was going to sell Opel.
Oh yeah,
but GM now says we're not selling Opel. Interesting, it came about when they heard that Fiat was interested in purchasing Opel, and all of a sudden they want to keep it. Some would question that decision because since 1999, Opel has lost nearly $17 billion.
Billion with a B.
With a B. They've been working really hard to get Opel back on track. Hasn't quite worked yet, but they do have a plan. They tentatively are going to be closing at least one plant. They're adjusting work hours, and they're currently putting together an alliance with Peugeot to share some technology and development costs and so on. So General Motors right now says Opel's not going anywhere.
Wow.
We're going to keep it. We're going to make it better. We're going to make it profitable. Time will tell.
That's right. For all you people that say, "Oh, I've read these headlines where Opel is an albatross on GM's neck," I'm pretty glad they hung on to it now. They might actually get some worth out of it.
We can turn it around.
Pretty darn smart. And speaking of GM, GM and Ford are teaming up on 10 speeds. No, not bicycles. They're teaming up on 10-speed automatic transmissions. Now, in an effort to trim development costs, and I don't know if you have any idea of the millions of dollars it takes to develop an all-new powertrain, especially a transmission, they're going to try to work together rather than being enemies in the marketplace, work together to try to come up with new 9 and 10-speed automatic transmissions so that they can really drop the cost by co-developing it and then use their own software and their own hardware to attach these transmissions to their own powertrains. Now, General Motors and Ford have done this before. This isn't anything new. But they really want to expand this alliance, and why is that? Because this new fuel mandate and the federal fuel mandate is going to force them to get way better mileage. So even if it's 2, 3, 5, 8% increases, these all add up and can make the difference between selling a volume car at a profit or not. Now Ford supposedly is going to take the lead on the 10-speed transmission for rear drive vehicles like trucks and Mustangs and things, and General Motors is going to lead the design of the 9-speed gearbox for use in front drive cars, and then they'll just trade. Now, you won't see this before 2015, so because it takes a long time to build something. But
and a lot of money.
The idea is, let's get these into the marketplace so we can start saving. Now, and they're a little behind the edge on this, Joe. Chrysler, Audi, BMW, Lexus, these guys are already offering 8-speed gearboxes, and Mercedes-Benz has a 7-speed. So, I mean, all these 8 and 9 and 10 speeds, I wonder if the whole thing will sound better if I put a baseball card in my 10-speed spokes. But no,
I don't know.
What do you think?
I don't know.
Pretty good idea?
I think it's a great idea. Yeah, great. I mean, you even see today with today's overdrive transmissions, you're cruising at 70
Yeah.
at about maybe 1,800 RPM,
Unbelievable.
barely off an idle. I know the
Unbelievable.
10 speeds will give nice performance, as you said, better fuel economy, and it's great that they're sharing technology, keeping the cost low. Ultimately, that's better for the consumer.
Bottom line is that's the story. We're going to come right back with our topic of the day right after this. Welcome back to Cars in Context. I'm your host, John Clor. We've got a great topic for you today, and it's all about how you can buy a used car safely, smartly, and more importantly, not get ripped off. We've got our car expert here today to lead us through this little tangled web of used car buying tips and advice. Joe Babiasz, welcome back
Hi, John.
to the show.
Good to
This is
see
going
you
to be a
again.
great show for folks. You need to pay attention to this little segment, because what they learn here could actually wind up saving them 10, 20, hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars in the long run. So let's get right into it, Joe. First of all, used cars are a great bargain. As we said earlier, sometimes you just can't afford a new car at that time. Maybe your credit's not ready to get a good rate on a new car. There are great bargains out there. Sometimes a used car can fit your need better. And where do we start looking? I know people just say, well, I found this ad at the grocery store with the little booklet. We don't usually go in the back of the newspaper for those old typical classifieds anymore, do we?
No, less and less people are advertising in the newspaper. Number one, it's very expensive.
Yeah.
Very expensive to do. The internet has really changed how you purchase a car, and it's made it much better for the consumer. You can walk out of your grocery store, and there are some
Those little
magazines
booklet,
that you
yeah.
see. They're marketed through a variety of used car dealers, and
Yeah.
so you'll have your choice of used car dealers. You can also go, I love using the web, so you can go to places like cars.com, carsdirect.com, autotrader.com, kellybluebook.com, and there are more.
And
Those
if you
are
know
just a
Joe, it's
few.
classicautotrader.com.
Classic Auto Trader, yes.
Looking
So
for
there are
those
a
old
lot
cars.
there are a lot of websites you can go to, John, to look for the vehicle that you really want. And they're really great because it allows you to customize what you're looking for. You can say, I want a 2007 Chevy. I'm willing to drive within 50 miles of my zip code. I'm looking within this price point. And it does all the work for you.
It
It'll
sorts it
sort
out.
down.
Wow.
It'll just spit that out. And you now have the both private owner as well as retailers, or you can say, I want to only buy from private owner or just dealers, and it'll show you exactly where to go for it.
It's
great.
phenomenal. You know, folks, I have experience in working for the OEMs on their production vehicle websites, and I can tell you that one of the inside secrets is they know darn well that you're going to go to the factory site, the manufacturer's site, to get basic information, but you don't really shop there. You're going to go, after you get that information and decide you go visit all the OEM sites, then you go off to the car search sites and you say,
Right.
well, then to the third-party sites, these guys that will have reviewed older cars. Of course, there's the old adage, this website never met a car it didn't like. And because they were worried about advertising dollars, but much like the Buff books used to get a punch in the face when it came. I'm not going to read them because they're in the back pockets of the automakers. Bottom line is, online is where you're just going to start looking both with the manufacturer's site to get the information you need, decide what you want to buy, what fits your vehicle needs, and then, as you say, begin the search. And like you say, I've used them. My son bought his car by setting in parameters. I only have this much money. I'll only drive this far. I only want this color and this engine, and it found 9, 10, 12 cars for him. Way better than driving up and down Gratiot and Telegraph and just stopping. Oh, is there,
What
do
do
you
you
see
have?
one back? Oh, it's not back there. Way
And
better.
it's also real time. You know, you might have an ad from a magazine. The magazine's a week old, and that car might be gone. And most of the time, if it's online, it's still probably available.
Which was my big problem when I used to buy the Auto Trader, remember?
Exactly.
And they go, oh,
Yeah,
there it is, and I
there
call
it
the guy,
is.
you sold it last Tuesday.
Yes.
Online, it's pretty real. It's
great.
really a
Best
phenomenal
way to
tool.
do it.
I agree with that. Well, okay, so let's say we find this car, but Joe, they're listed in there. Some are, it'll say private seller, some are dealer. What do we need to know about what the ins and outs of both of those?
Well, John, there are pros and cons to buying a car from a private seller or a dealer.
Okay.
But I'd like to break it up a little bit further.
Sure.
Private seller, B lot or used car dealer,
Right.
or A lot, which is a new car dealership,
With
a
a
dealership
used
that
car.
sells new cars as well as used cars. And buying a car from either of these or any of these has its pros and cons.
Yep.
First, let's look at the private owner.
Okay.
Most of the time, you'll get the best deal from a private owner.
Okay.
And especially if you hear from a friend, the guy has a car for sale and they bought it new, they're the only owner, and you now know the history of the car, you've met the people that drive and own the car. Maybe it's been cleaned up a little bit, but you're really just seeing what they've owned for a number of years.
Yeah.
And so you feel a little bit more comfortable saying, gee, private owner, they bought it new, it's not been in any accidents, but that brings up the question, do you know that they might say it,
Yeah.
but I would suggest you ask for a Carfax
Yep.
and ask for the seller to pay for it. It's not that expensive,
Yep.
and this will tell the buyer whether the car's been in any major accidents at all. So that's the pros. The
idea.
cons of a private buying from a private. Number one, you can't get an extended warranty.
Right.
You can't do a trade-in.
Right.
They can't help you with financing.
No, you better have
and
your
so you got to sell your own car. You got to go to your own bank. There are some downsides to that. So you have the good and the bad. You get the best price probably, but it's somewhat restricted.
Yeah.
The next way to go is a B lot or a used car dealership.
Yep.
And they offer the disadvantage is that the car will cost a little bit more than it will with the private owner, usually. But they do have an advantage that you can get financing either through the dealer, which might be expensive, or they might have some local banks that they can help you with. And they can also take a trade.
Right.
But another downside of a used car dealer compared to a new car dealer is that they can't certify a used car.
No, sir.
And they can't offer let's call it a factory style warranty.
Mm-hmm.
The third piece of the pie is buying it from a new car dealer, usually the most expensive way to do it. That's the downside. But the upside, there are a lot of upsides. You'll probably be able to get a certified car, which comes with, in most cases, a 1-year warranty, or something like that. They will take a trade. They have the best financing arms available.
Absolutely.
They can do local banks, they could do credit unions, they could do in-house financing, and they can actually help drive the total cost of the car down because of their ability to finance. So getting through a new car dealer, you get some really good big advantages.
Well, let's think about two folks. When we're talking about A lot and B lot, the A lot was the full service dealer, have a new car dealership right next to the used cars. Those guys watch your business as a new car customer someday. So they're less likely to make sure that your used car buying experience is a rough and rocky road. Whereas we got our jokes about used cars from the B-lot guys. A used car dealer, and these guys are fluff and buff guys. They take a car in and trade. They lowball the buyer. They get the car low. They know they might have to put some things in, the obvious things to get it to quit leaking or to quit making noise, or throw in a used part, a used alternator, used battery, used tires, fluff and buff it and try to sell it. They can turn and burn a lot of cars that way, but you really got to have a reputable guy, somebody that has a good experience. That's where the online reviews are so handy. On some of these sites, they actually have reviews of some of these used car dealers and say, hey, this guy, the car wasn't right, or he said it looked great in the pictures. I got there, it was resprayed, whatever. Read the reviews. Don't just read about the car, and that'll really help you decide on those dealers.
Yeah, use the web. There's a lot of good information on the web, and it also includes how to find the best financing and so on and so forth.
Okay, so Joe, let's say now we found what we want. We know where it is. Now, when we go to see the car, what do we look for when we come up to that car?
Well, you obviously you want to do a really good walk around on the car.
Don't buy a car in the night.
Never buy a car in the evening.
or the rain.
Never take. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Take a good look at the car. Do a walk around, look underneath the car, look under the hood, the interior. See whether you see any overspray. If maybe the car had been damaged, if there might have been in an accident in the past. And again, this is where you get back to the Carfax.
Right.
It's worth its weight in gold to make sure that you're buying a car that has not been in a major accident.
Absolutely.
So you do your homework, but unless you really know cars well, regardless of where you buy the car from, you might want to consider asking the seller that you want to have that car inspected. You want to have it inspected by a professional who's going to put it up on the lift. They're going to pull the wheels off, check the brake condition of the brakes.
Even if you pay a $35, $40 hoist fee, it's worth it,
It's
folks,
well
because you
worth
could save that. And the other thing is, so you don't know Joe Babiasz in person, so he can go with you. I'm sure you know a car guy, uncle, friend, pal down the street, the car guy in the car club. Bring someone with you.
Sure.
Don't be afraid. You don't have to do this by yourself, or just call up your car guy friends. They know the business. They know cars. They'll be happy to go with you.
Absolutely.
Really good.
They
Now,
like doing it.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
Car guys love doing it.
So you got the car guy there. You got it checked out. They love the car. I'm ready. How do you get the best price?
Do your homework.
Okay.
Now, you know ahead of time what you're going to look for. Go to Kelly Blue Book, go to Edmunds.com. Those are some guides that'll tell you what the value of that car should be. But really, those are generic prices.
Yeah.
The best guide is to go to the website where you found it and look at other similar cars for sale. Maybe you'll find another 2007 Impala with 60,000 miles, and it'll give you an idea of, in this zip code area, that's the going price. Now, keep in mind, that's the starting price. That's the negotiable price in most cases. And work your way down. I'll always suggest offer the lowest price you feel comfortable offering. You can always go up, but you can never go down.
That's a
and
good
you know
point.
that if you made them an
Good
offer and the first time they accept your offer,
You're
your
done.
offer was too high. So,
Sure, I'll take it right now. It's a terrible
you're not going
idea.
to get something for nothing, but just make sure that you do the best for yourself when you make an offer
That
on a
is
car.
the best advice possible. And a lot of people go on Craigslist. They'll see 15 cars, and where are they? They're priced all over the map. Or go on eBay, and they say, "Oh, these are priced." Well, what are they selling for? You could post any
asking
price you
price.
want. That's asking
Absolutely.
price. So it's a great idea. You can look and see where is the median. And then try to come in with that price and be fair, because don't insult a person if you want the car. On the other hand, you can always go up and, okay, well, maybe that was too low. It's never an insult if you're really seriously interested in the car and you're a cash buyer.
Well, that's true. You're a cash buyer, and they want to sell this product.
Sure.
They really want to sell it, and money talks. I have cash. I'm willing to pay you this. You do bring up an important point, though. Don't insult them. If they want $10,000, don't offer them $2,000.
Yeah.
Be responsible, but get it as cheaply as you can.
We're not on hardcore pawn.
Exactly.
Where you just
So
say,
get
I'll
it
give
as
you
cheap
$20.
as you can. Go up. And if you have
We're not an 8 Mile.
if you have a really good car, be willing to pay good money for it. If you have especially a private owner that they bought it 3 years ago, the original owners, the Carfax is clean. They give you a stack of oil changes every 3,000 miles. The car is spotless. And maybe it's a little bit more money than another one you might see at a used car lot.
I'm telling you.
I'd buy that car.
Conversely, if you see a car out there, you come to the guy's house, you look at it, it's only been driven by his grandmother to church and back on Sunday. It's got and you look in the backyard, there's 8 or 7 cars put up on milk crates, and they're all being worked on. Probably not true. So use common sense. Common sense will help you drive that deal. Bottom line is, when you're all done, you feel you've got the right car at the right price, you got to get the documentation. Sometimes deals that are too good to be true are too good to be true. And in what way, Joe?
A lot of people have been ripped off buying this really cheap car, especially over the internet if they buy from out of state. And they find out after they get the car, they get the title, and the title says salvage, or it says it's a flood car. It's not unusual. Down south, a lot of floods down south. Dealers, they'll take those cars. Some of them they call it wash the title, but not everybody does. Make sure the title does not say flood car, does not say salvage title. Also make sure that if there's a lien on it, before you pay for it,
my goodness.
they have the seller take care of that lien. They'll give you a document from the credit union which will say this car has been paid in full. One last thing with the title, there's a VIN number on the title. Walk over to the car at the driver's side windshield area. There's a VIN tag on that. Make sure the VIN number on the title matches the VIN number on the car. You
can be really taken by guys who either in a car theft ring, they put the car on Craigslist, and they give you a title. The title, if you don't look at it closely, it didn't match the vehicle, you're out of luck.
You're out of luck.
You bought a stolen car, and it will be taken back, and your money is gone. You'll never find the guy. You really have to make sure when you get to the documentation stage, the VIN numbers match, and that you're buying an actual car that, if you want to buy a salvage title car, Joe, I say okay, but just know what you're buying. Know what you're buying. Joe, this is phenomenal advice. It's awesome. Folks, if you haven't been paying attention, you really need to, because these are the kind of tips can make or break your deal. Joe, I really appreciate that, but guess what? It's time for one of my favorite segments of the show. It's Pride in My Ride time.
All right, here we go.
And we're going to let Joe bring in a Pride My Ride. Joe, I want you to be able to show the picture of this
Oh,
one.
yeah,
and
this is
another.
a sweet ride. This
Okay.
is-
Let's see what we got this time up.
There we go. This is a 1962 Chevy Impala. It's owned by Autumn Riggle of Ferndale. Autumn works for Brothers Custom Automotive in Troy. It's one of the best hot rod shops in the area.
Oh.
And what I love about this car and about Autumn is that this is her only car. She drives this 12 months a year.
No
This
way.
is not her summer warm weather car. This is all she owns. It's a 50-year-old Chevy. She loves driving it. She bought it kind of as a work in progress. The first thing she did when she bought it, she cut the coils to drop the car down a little bit.
Yeah.
She applied primer to the lower part and then red metal flake paint to the top.
Wow.
It's powered by a 283 with a Power Glide. The car is spectacular. Because of what it is, and she loves her cars and she loves driving this thing all year long. You can't miss this car at a stoplight.
Oh,
You know, she has plans for disc brakes and a few power steering later on, but right now she just enjoys driving it the way it is. It's a really unique car.
What a sweet ride.
Yeah, beautiful.
I've got to love it. Folks, if you have a vehicle that you'd like to be featured in Pride My Ride, send a couple of JPEG digital photos to me at jclor, J-C-L-O-R, at carsincontext.com, and then write me up a reason why you have such pride in your ride, plus your hometown always helps, and the correct spelling of your name, so we get that right, and we'll be happy to put it on the air. Really, Joe, that was a really sweet vehicle.
Very nice car.
But, you know, wait a minute, there's always something extra around here, because it is Cars in Context. I understand. Is it possible we have reader mail?
We have something coming
viewer
our way.
mail. Kermit Potter, the station manager at WMTV, has found viewer mail. Thank you very much, Kermit. We do have viewer mail again, and we thank you, viewers, for sending in your viewer mail. And here's one that says, it comes from Don K. He's out of St. Clair Shores, and Don is watching Cars in Context on WMTV on WOW Cable. That's been recently introduced out here. We really appreciate WOW. It says, hey, John, I saw your show about car care, Joe. That must have been a show that you had something to do with. And I wonder if you can tell me if the high cost of changing a fuel filter at the oil change shop is really worth it. Oh, they must have dropped them the $50, $60, $70 price tag. It says, my car has 100,000 miles on it, and it runs fine. He's never changed his fuel filter. But with modern pump gas at stations today, are fuel filter changes even needed anymore? You know what? We'll weigh in with Joe on this one in a second here, but I'd suggest, just my opinion, you might want to follow the OEM's recommendations. So
always follow the owner's manual. You cannot go wrong with that.
All right, Joe, do you have one?
I do. This comes from Larry Whitcomb of Southfield, who watches Cars in Context on WMTV on ATT U-verse, Channel 99. He wants to know the best way to store a vintage car for the winter.
Oh, we could do a whole show on this one.
There's a lot of things you need to do, but it's not just for vintage car. It's also for a regular car for those snowbirds that get out of Michigan in the winter.
What we'll give you is we'll give you, Larry, the short version, just a minute's worth. So.
Okay. Wash and wax your car. Get a really good car cover. Check your antifreeze to make sure that you have the appropriate amount so that it doesn't freeze in the winter.
Crack block.
I'd recommend you put a plastic sheet underneath on the garage floor before you drive your car up on it, because cement will weep moisture. And it will rot the bottom of your car out quicker than you could ever imagine.
Very good point.
And so just put a 9x12 or enough of cloth underneath, not a carpet, plastic. You want to avoid that weeping through there.
You want a vapor barrier.
Exactly. There's a product, these are little packets you can put inside your car that absorbs moisture.
Yeah, that's right.
And so you can find those things on the internet. A variety of companies sell them.
And they're also at your hardware store.
Oh, okay. They might be there. Do that. Fill up your gas tank. Put some stable in it.
Yeah, don't drain the tank. Fill it up.
Fill it up.
And then
you don't
put
want
a stabilizer.
Because otherwise you're going to get moisture in your.
And that ethanol in there will turn the water. So you got to put the stable in.
Absolutely. And finally, disconnect your battery cables. And possibly, if you want to take your battery out, store it in a dry place, but minimally disconnect your battery cables.
Right. Well, folks, that just about does it for that.
We're out of time.
We are out of time. I really appreciate it. If you have a question, make sure you send it to jclor at carsincontext.com. Remember, folks, knowledge is power. So until next time, I'm your host, John Clor. Thanks for watching.